I'm your host, Rob Carbone. This is BD4.
Here's Barrett. Some shake is big. Hits for three.
Chance alive in the crowd was Barrett. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye.
Anthony for three.
That one goes down. Gotta put four fingers up when Torres comes to the plate.
The ball. See ya. See ya. This is the Tucker. Got it. Yankees win.
186. Ep 186 tonight of the podcast of BD4. Thank you for tuning in. We are changing it up a bit. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube, we're doing a little bit of a different editing format here, and I'm hoping it looks more attractive. Played around with the fucking software that I used, and it was a little too generic before, so hopefully this looks a little nicer if you're watching the podcast. But if you're listening, welcome still. Episode 186 of the podcast tonight of BD4. I'm not going to talk on for too much because for tonight's episode, for this show, I had a good conversation with a friend of the show, somebody who's been on the show plenty of times before, and somebody who started his own podcast himself. Leo Rodriguez from Say No More podcast joined our show tonight, and it was a good time. We discussed a lot of basketball, some Celtics talk, because he's a big, giant Boston Celtics fan. We discussed the NFL a bit after we talked NBA. We went on to talk about the NFC East, which, people call the NFC least. We talked about the other Thanksgiving game, aside from the Dallas Cowboys. So, and then we wrapped it up with talking about the Mike Tyson fight, which I totally forgot was tomorrow night. All summer I was talking about November. We have to wait till November. Here we are. It's the end of fucking November already. Jesus. Christmas is going to be here before we know it. And the Mike Tyson fight is on tomorrow night. It's happening tomorrow night. God damn, it's going to be awesome. Roy Jones Jr., don't sleep on him either. He's, this guy was a monster as well. But Tyson is obviously the favorite, but it could go either way. I heard it's a no knockout fight, so that's gonna be cool. But yeah, guys, thank you for coming to 186. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. This is BD4. We are sponsored by Anchor, but yes, this is BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. So thank you for stopping by. And so before we get into the conversation that Leo and I had about the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys, and then also the Boston Celtics and some of the other NBA clubs and the Tyson thing. Before we get into all that, I do want to talk a little bit Knicks because, it's nothing crazy, but we got the preseason schedule today, which was cool. So December 11th and December 13th are the Knicks' first two games, and that will be played in Detroit. So they're opening up against Detroit. And then on the 16th and on the 18th, the Knicks will be at MSG with no crowd, unfortunately, to take on the Cavs. Now, that's going to be fun because considering it's preseason, you're definitely going to see a lot of Obi Toppin. Should see a lot of him either way if they're smart. And the Cavs were one of those teams, right, who picked before the Knicks. So, one of the teams who passed up on Obi. So, it's going to be cool. I'm excited, and that's not even too far. Again, it's November 26th as I speak tonight. Yeah, it's fucking November 27th. It's Friday. It's Friday, November 27th as we record. So, getting up there, man. So the Knicks preseason schedule was released. December 11th is the first game. But if you go back, I think camp starts December 1st, right? The first 5 days of camp are individual workouts, but I think on December 6th is Tom Thibodeau's first team practice, right? So keep that in mind. And that's really that's all that's fucking been happening with the fucking Knicks lately. Nothing really big. We discussed a lot. We discussed a fucking ton leading up to the draft, on draft night, and then we discussed a bunch so far after the draft happened, talking about the offseason. So, we're pretty much covered. Nothing really has happened since our last Knicks episode 2 nights ago. Maybe we talked about maybe we didn't fucking discuss Jared Harper signing a 2-way deal between the G League and the NBA. So what's happening with Lamar Peters? Because all of last season, people were hyping this Peters kid up. I'm so high on Lamar Peters. I don't know why. All of a sudden, he's just dropped off the face of the earth. Nobody wants to talk about him, and everybody wants to talk about this fucking Harper kid. Granted, maybe he's good, but, averaging 20 in the G League, and we got him from Phoenix for essentially nothing, but why all of a sudden is Peters not even fucking talked about once over these last several months? I really haven't heard his name once. Peters is a 5'11" kid who's $170. I mean, really? I mean, not Peters, Harper. Really? All of a sudden, Peters, who looked really good, dropping 17 and 7 on efficient shooting and creating off the bounce and being able to shoot the ball, get to the rim. All of a sudden, he's, old news? We don't even talk about the kid? That's the kid I want to see. No offense to Harper. I want to see Lamar Peters get a shot at guard. Shit. Nobody's talking about the kids. Am I missing something? Did they release him and I don't know? I don't know. I know Kenny Wooten's not around anymore. Signed with Houston, but what the hell? I never hear about Lamar Peters. You know who I have been hearing about lately is Nicholas Batum. Now, I think this guy's pretty trash. Averaged fucking 3 points per game last season. And that was in 23 minutes, but he got 31 minutes 2 seasons ago, and he averaged fucking 8 or 9 points. So he fucking sucks. He shot 28% from downtown this year, 33 2 years ago. He's not even that good of a 3-1 shooter. I think he sucks ass, to be honest with you. I don't think he's that good anymore. He used to be decent, but he doesn't look like he's that good anymore. Would I trade for him? Because the Hornets are obviously trying to make room for Gordon Hayward at the forward spot. Would I trade for him? The Knicks have been in rumors. Only, and I say this only if it comes with some draft capital. A couple of second rounders maybe. Because that was, remember the Knicks are considering, we heard this a couple weeks ago, the Knicks are considering taking on a bad contract if it comes with assets and draft picks. So I would only trade for him if it was to get us, a couple of young guys in return with some draft picks and or draft picks. But I'm really, as for himself, you don't trade for Nicholas Batum, you just trade and he's on the side. The guy, I think he's pretty fucking bad now. I just don't think he can score a ton. He's a very inconsistent shooter. His numbers do not jump out at you anymore. Maybe if you make a deal like this, and if he does well, you sign him back on a friendly deal, team-friendly contract. But mainly this is, taking on his $27 million for 2021 is strictly for what you're getting, in terms of draft capital. Maybe it could be an Ed Davis type of thing when the Knicks get him and then they flip Batum for some more picks. But that was I saw that. I was like, ugh. Only if it gets us some draft picks and we can keep stockpiling on that. Then Leon Rose would be genius to do something like that, because we're already in pretty good shape in terms of that. But that's really all that's been happening. Again, Knicks signed Jared Harper to a 2-way contract, and we're hearing some Nicholas Batum rumors. So that's it. Let's get to the conversation that Leo and I had for episode 186. But first, we're going to take a break, and when we get back from break, we'll do our NYK question of the day early, and then we'll get right into the conversation with Leo. So be right back.
Just a quick reminder that if you haven't followed me on social media yet, or subscribed to the blog or this podcast, just go to my website to do all that stuff at nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect.
All right, so let me just get my notes here for the question. So last time out in episode 185. In 185, our NYK question of the day: how many playoff appearances did the Knicks have in the 1980s? The answer to that was 5. They made the playoffs 5 seasons in the 1980s decade. They did make it in an 89-90 season, but the 89-90 season is counted as the 90 season. So 5 seasons in the 1980s where they made the playoffs. But tonight's NYK question of the day for episode 186. How many seasons did Jeremy Lin serve as a Knick? So kind of a random one, but just came to mind. So how many seasons did Jeremy Lin serve as a Knick? So message me the answer on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or just comment on the post once I publish the podcast. All right. So that's that. And so we might as well get into it. Might as well get into the conversation that Leo and I had. It was about 40 minutes, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Leo, if you don't know, has a podcast called Say No More. And we'll talk about it there at the end. So if you guys want to get his information, his plugs and all that, stay tuned for the whole thing. It's a great conversation that we had. So I would advise you listen to the entire thing. It's great. So guys, thank you for stopping by. I'll see you next time. Ciao. Yeah, thank you. It's good that you brought that up. Oh, shit. All right, yeah, we'll talk
about man, Mike Tyson. Well, yeah, we'll talk about it.
Fuck yeah.
We'll probably talk that at the end, I guess, right?
Yeah, whenever you want. Let me just get my shit. But I want to start with, we talked about it before. We texted about it. But I want to know your thoughts on the Celtics offseason, because they did a bunch. They extended Tatum. They drafted a couple of guys, good shooters from good schools. They tried trading Kemba, but they didn't. They signed a couple of older free agents. They, the Hayward thing. I want to talk about, just the whole offseason for them, and then we'll go on.
Of course.
So what's your thinking of how they did so far? I guess we'll start with you gotta like that they extended Tatum earlier, for 5 years, $195 million. It's like,
obviously, yeah, that's obviously the best thing. That's probably the only good thing I think they've done in the whole off season. I think keeping their superstar and paying him the max deal that he deserves. He's arguably one of the best young basketball players on the planet right now. He's so good. He makes a huge difference for everybody. His growth has just been spectacular, and seeing him grow from his rookie season to now. In his rookie season, a lot of people thought that the Celtics were reaching high for him because of the fact that that was Josh Jackson, and people thought Josh Jackson was going to be this great. This great player for college, for the NBA, and he turned out to be a huge bust. And Tatum being arguably one of the best basketball players on the planet. It's good to have him back, set up for 5 more years. And also having guys like Jaylen Brown and everybody back. It's good to have your star players sign up. But, my biggest worry is they didn't really address their number one issues. They need a big guy. Yeah. They need a big man.
Yeah. And it's getting a
Tristan
big...
Thompson.
Yeah, I want to talk about that with you real quick, man. I want to ask you about the whole Gordon Hayward thing, because you guys had a chance to get Miles Turner. But Danny Ainge, I'm thinking it was I think it was Turner and McDermott. But Danny Ainge said he wanted Oladipo or something, and they didn't want to do that or something like that. And so he ended up letting Hayward walk, and he signs with Charlotte. And you guys have to end up signing Tristan Thompson, who, averages a double-double, but he's not Miles Turner. He doesn't have that youth. He can't shoot the ball. He's not a great defender. He's not, he's an upgrade from what you have, I guess, but I think you could have done a lot more in that Hayward situation. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a really, really difficult offseason, I think, for the Boston Celtics, because I think the debacle with Indiana was really in my opinion, a really stupid decision. I think not going for a guy like you said, like a Miles Turner, when the Indiana Pacers were willing to let him go for Hayward, and you decided to get greedy and decided to go for a Victor Oladipo or a TJ Warren, which, in my opinion, we do not need. We have better players in that position than Indiana does. I mean, getting Oladipo for me was kind of stupid because this is a guy who's coming back from 2 major injuries.
Right.
And not only that, I mean, he is a great player in Indiana, but he's not a player that's going to win you a championship. He's already been proven that he's not. He's been on championship caliber teams, and he doesn't do anything. And TJ Warren, a good player, but I mean, I don't think the Celtics really need a TJ Warren. They have a Jason Tatum. They have a Jaylen Brown. They have, they also had Marcus Smart. I mean, they have a lot of good scorers. But for me, it just doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that when you could have got a not Pro Bowl, we're talking different sport, an all-star caliber player in Miles Turner that can easily, not saying he's the best big man in the league, but he is an asset that will help the Celtics take on a team like Milwaukee or the Lakers or the Clippers, who are now getting a little bit bigger, and Brooklyn's going to be good next year. Miami with their size. I think the Celtics, if anything, they've gotten predominantly worse. Getting a guy like Tristan Thompson, I would have been excited about this 5-6 years ago. I think he's a little bit washed now. He's gone through a lot of personal issues. Obviously, his personal life is all over People in Us Weekly magazine because he's dating.
Is he still with the Kardashian?
Khloe Kardashian.
Yeah,
he's still with that Khloe Kardashian, and the funny thing is, the first thing we saw was she literally just wrote, "Boston, here we come." Yeah, it's just not very excited. Boston fans are not very excited about that. It's a lot of baggage to deal with because the Kardashians are an industry. They're a huge. They're a huge distraction for any team. You can ask teams like the Cowboys with Kim was with Miles Austin, or with the Rockets when James Harden was dating Khloe, and James Harden's numbers were actually going down because when you're with the Kardashian, you're gonna have to do a lot. They're everywhere. They have to be everywhere, and it's not easy to deal with something like that. But I don't think Tristan Thompson's the answer. If he becomes that double-double machine that he was 6 years ago, I would say, hell yeah, the Celtics definitely won in getting him for 2 years for, what was it, $13 million. But I think, honestly, it might be too much it might be too much pressure. Not pressure, but too much baggage, and it might really, in my opinion, affect the Celtics going forward. I do like Jeff Teague. They did sign Jeff Teague. Teague is a good, nice backup for Kemba. Teague is a nice backup. I think he's a nice backup to.
I think it was a good signing considering, Kemba's got that knee issue.
Well, also Kemba really also needs to start, becoming the reason why they spend all that money on him.
Yeah.
He hasn't really panned out in the playoffs. I mean, he came up really short in the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami, and it's something to really be worried about if you're a Celtics fan, because if he's not performing well, and you're trying to win the East, it may be an issue going forward if your point guard, your floor general, isn't performing well. And it really affected them against Miami. If you saw that series against Miami, Kemba didn't really had a very good series at all. He didn't really have a good playoffs. So, that's kind of an issue going forward.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point. I think they are. They tried moving him in the draft, Kemba, but I think there are indicators there that they're trying to
figure something out at the point guard position because they brought in 2 more point guards. It wasn't just Jeff Teague, but they got that Peyton Pritchard kid out of Oregon who, he's also at the point guard position, and he's a very good shooter. He was, I think, second in 3-pointers made in Oregon history. And so he's coming out of college shooting 41% from downtown this past season. And he's also a guy who could potentially get some minutes, do injuries happen or just kind of overachieve, and maybe he finds himself, at the middle to back end of the rotation. So you have Pritchard, and you also have a forward you guys drafted in Naismith. I want to hear your thoughts on their draft, and if you think it was a good idea or what.
In my opinion, they drafted really poorly. I think they didn't really draft what they need. They really need a big man. There were plenty of good big men still left over. Celtics could have gotten a few good assets. I mean, there were still some good players, like an RJ Hampton could have been really nice for them because, obviously he brings in a lot. He's a scorer and he's also a really good defender as well for the Celtics. But, I mean, they need size, and they're just not big. They're going to be like the Houston Rockets, basically, a slightly better version of the Houston Rockets because, obviously the Rockets depend on James Harden. The Celtics, they have so many great weapons, but unfortunately when you're playing small ball, that doesn't entirely mean you're going to win championships. That's proven already what the Lakers have done with size and, having LeBron as their main point guard, and, they won the championship fair and square just because of how physical they are. Getting a guy like Anthony Davis and everything, it just helps a lot,
Yeah, man. And yeah, so I think considering everything, looking at what they've done in the offseason, they needed some bench depth. They got some, but they really needed a big. They didn't get Turner. They had to settle for Thompson. So if you were to grade them and evaluate them by giving them a letter grade overall this offseason, A through F, what are you giving them?
C plus, C, probably a C, like a C plus C. I think getting a guy like Jeff Teague does really that's a really solid pickup. He's a good backup point guard for the Celtics. Not getting a big man has really been their biggest issue, and I think also how they've handled the Gordon Hayward situation. Not knowing that you could have gotten a Miles Turner or some assets. I mean, I still think they're still discussing a sign and trade with Charlotte right now.
Yeah.
For getting something out of Hayward. I've been told that it's possible Nicholas Batum could be their next could be the guy being traded, but I honestly hope that doesn't happen because I'm not a big fan of Nicholas Batum. I think he's massively overrated. And
sucked.
Yeah, he's not very good, and obviously that is a problem with the Celtics. As a championship caliber team, you do not need a player averaging 8 points a game when you could have gotten that with like a Wanamaker or whoever they had in their bench,
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, giving them a C plus. I think that's pretty fair. So if they don't win the title this year, we might have talked about this before last time you were on the show, but Leo, if they don't win the title this year, where do you stand with Brad Stevens?
Well, I think the top of what the Celtics can be this season is an Eastern semifinal or Eastern first round because the East definitely got better. Milwaukee's still there. Miami, we all saw how great Miami is. Toronto's still there. I mean, yeah, Toronto lost Ibaka and Gasol, but they're still very young, very hungry team. I will tell you 100%. Pascal Siakam will definitely get better next season. He's definitely probably very not happy with the fact that he's he underperformed in the series against the Celtics. Brooklyn's even better. Indiana still will be there. Am I missing the Sixers? I mean, the Sixers are still there too. I mean, the Celtics didn't really need to start getting their shit together, but I do believe if they don't make it to the finals or even win it, I think this will be the last season for Brad Stevens. I just don't see him staying. He's been there for nearly 10 years now, and you haven't even sniffed going to the finals yet with this roster. It's kind of inexcusable. I think if you can get like a really good head coach in with the Celtics,
Yeah.
I think obviously they could win and win now. I mean, that's kind of how what Golden State was with Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson being the great coach he is, and Mark Jackson is a great coach, and I still believe the Warriors want to win a championship with Jackson. But I think getting another coach and a good basketball mind like Steve Kerr kind of was like the push for them to winning a championship. And just saying, all right. I mean, as a former player who's won a lot, it would make more sense. And I think if I'm the Celtics, I would go with somebody who's won, obviously, in the NBA. Possibly could be, a Jerry Stackhouse, something like that, where you can hire a coach who's won and already in. I mean, the Clippers are doing the same thing now with Tyronn Lue. And, with Jason Kidd being the assistant coach with the Lakers and winning, eventually he'll be the coach for Frank Vogel or whoever. I mean, there's still a lot of options. Steve Nash is another one. I think he could win a title with Brooklyn because, he's won. But, I mean, obviously he didn't win a title, but he's won a lot of games, and he's considered one of the best point guards in the NBA, in the history of the NBA, just because, he's just his intelligence and his vision and understanding of the game it's key. And I think, not disrespecting Brad, because I think Brad's a fantastic coach, and he's done so well. He's built the super great team with Boston in such short amount of time, because it's not really easy to make a championship contender in this short amount of time. I mean, you can ask Minnesota, you can ask the Knicks, you can ask a lot of teams where it's not easy to build a team under in 10 years. And I think the Celtics built their team really fast. I mean, they really started becoming a contender like maybe into year 5, year 6 of the rebuild. So that, I think, if Brad Stevens can't deliver a trophy, I mean, maybe it's time.
Yeah. I think you make a good point. You have all that talent. You got to get it done eventually. So looking at the Eastern Conference, do you think there's usually one overachiever every year? Do you see it, or just looking at the NBA as a whole, not even the East? If you look at the Suns, who got CP3, the Hawks, who drafted Okongwu and got Gallinari to that big deal. You look at the Hornets, LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, or maybe the Warriors. Thompson's hurt, but I know Curry's coming back, and they just got Wiseman. Do you think there's a team like one of those guys who are gonna, do really well this year and surprise people?
I think if the Warriors stay healthy, they'll be a top 5 team in the West. No question about it. That's not even a surprise, because I feel like the Warriors, the reason why they were so shit this year was because they had so many injuries. Losing Clay, Steph going down, and then they didn't really have that many weapons. And now they have a guy like Wiseman, Oubre, a healthy Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins. That's a very solid team. That's a team that can easily be a top 5 team in the West. I think they will be. I think the team that will make the biggest jump, it would be I'll be honest with you, I think it might be the Suns. I think the Suns, did a really nice job, trading Rubio and Oubre to get CP3. Not losing Booker, not losing Ayton, not losing all their great players. Yeah, losing Oubre did stink because he was really doing well in Phoenix. But I think getting like a CP3, you're getting a floor general. You're kind of loosening the hands off of Booker to be the top dog. He could now just being a stop and shoot kind of guy. Starts scoring buckets. Yeah. Ayton can obviously rebound like crazy. He's such a good big man. I think, in my opinion, he's underrated. The Suns, I think, are going to be a playoff team this year. I think they'll make the big jump. But I do agree with you with the Hawks. I think the Hawks are going to be the team to make the big jump in the Eastern Conference. Getting a guy like Bogdanovich, getting Rondo, Gallinari, Kendrick Dunn, getting Chris Dunn, and then getting and drafting Okongwu. That was the Hawks really have a really good team going forward. And obviously, people are forgetting that they still have Clint Capella on their roster,
Yes.
and having a guy like Trae Young, who is a triple double waiting to happen just because of how dominant he is with the basketball. He's just such a good floor general, such a special player. I think honestly, the Hawks could be a playoff team, and that's why I'm saying the Celtics really need to start really think about like what they're doing right now, because you're getting a lot of good teams coming out of the East now, and the Hawks are definitely one of them. With the Hornets, I still think it's way too early for them. I think there will be a fun team to watch. People want to see what LaMelo brings to the table. I honestly am a big fan of LaMelo. I think LaMelo could be excellent for Charlotte. I think it's a good fit for him because a lot of people are, the Hornets actually have some decent scorers. They went out and got that center from Kentucky, Nick Richards, who was a good pick up for them. They needed some size, obviously, because what's his name hasn't really panned out. Kaminsky and what's his face, the guy from Indiana, the brother of what's his name, Zeller, Cody Zeller hasn't really panned out as well. Yeah, Cody Zeller really hasn't really panned out. Them getting Devontae Graham has been.
He's good.
He's becoming a potential superstar. Hernan Gomez being a really good power forward. Miles Bridges, another good forward they have. They have some decent parts. Biombo, Terry Rozier, as they're going to be now their backup point guard. There's no question about it. Malik Monk is decent. But getting a guy like LaMelo Ball, it is very interesting to see what he brings to the table. I won't say he will become John Morant, but I do think that he has potential to be a very good player for the Hornets, but I do not think they're a playoff team.
Do you know who LaMelo Ball reminds me of?
What does he remind you?
Do you remember that dude, Jason Williams? A freak passer?
Yes.
A very good player.
Jason Williams with like a little better shot selection.
Right. I think he's got a really good passing skill set. He kind of reminds me of somebody like that who's going to go out there and give you 8-9 assists a night at least and score the ball, of course, too.
Yeah, of course. I do think so, too. I think he's going to be electric. I think he might be obviously as good as Lonzo, because obviously the pressure was a lot on Lonzo because of what his father did. But now, the ball hype has kind of been, dropping since, how Lonzo, wasn't really panned out for the Lakers, and then now he's been traded to the Pelicans, and he's actually been pretty solid coming into New Orleans. He's actually played pretty well. But obviously LaMelo is getting some pressure because obviously, playing for Michael Jordan, and also, his dad, his comments saying about how he will beat Michael Jordan 1v1 and yada yada. But I mean, I don't think the hype is this much with him as per se like an Edwards or a Wiseman, because these are guys. Well, Wiseman, I think, kind of lucked out in his situation being in an instant playoff team. But guys like Edwards and LaMelo, these are guys who are they gotta work to get wins, I think.
Right. You're listening to BD4. I'm your host, Rob Carbone. Talking with Leo Rodriguez tonight. Leo's from Say No More podcast. You can find him on Apple Podcasts and Anchor and Spotify and many more. Leo, I want to move on to the NFL because shit. Yesterday was fun. I don't know, man. This NFC East thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this whole fucking fuckery?
I want the season to be over with right now. I'm so fucking done with football. I mean, I you know what? Something really funny, Rob. I was excited again. This is what the Cowboys do to me, man. Like, they got me so excited after they beat Minnesota, which I thought there's like no way they're going to beat Minnesota because Minnesota was red hot. They were winning 3 consecutive games in a row. They looked pretty good. And actually, Minnesota played a pretty good game. But just Dallas played lights out, spectacular. You know, Zeke was running the ball over 100 yards, and CD Lamb was kind of going off, and making some great catches for Dalton. And the offense was starting to look pretty productive. And then they go out to last night against the Washington No Names, and they just absolutely got destroyed in one quarter. It was a close game until they allowed 21 points, and the Cowboys couldn't score 1 point. Like, and that is just absolutely fucking embarrassing.
It was ugly, man.
But I mean, if you want to answer your question, who's going to win the NFC East?
Yeah.
Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Nobody. This playoff team, whoever gets to be in the playoffs as the representative of the NFC East, if it'll be Dallas, funny enough, they still got a shot. The Giants, who I think is the best team out of that whole division right now. The Washington football team, or the Eagles. If you tell me which one deserves to be there, I'm going to tell you it's the New York Football Giants. I think the Giants have proven that they can compete with anybody because they play hard. Joe Judge is a hell of a coach. He's got a really good system going on. I honestly think they should really, really consider hiring a new offensive coordinator. I think maybe they need to get with a guy who's a little more exotic. I think Garrett likes to run the ball a little bit more and try to become the Cowboys, but unfortunately, you don't have the offensive line to do that, so you really can't really run the football efficiently. Plus, the Giants, I think, are better as a pass-only team because they do have good weapons. You know, Slayton's actually been pretty good. Sterling Shepard, we all know he's very good. Golden Tate is on and off. He's a weapon. And obviously, Evan Ingram's still truly dangerous, although when he catches the football, he's effective because he has dropped a lot this season. But other than that, they have some good weapons. I mean, they're not nowhere near the weapons of what Dallas has, but Dallas is completely underperforming. And I also think that clearly this is a team that's given up. They really don't really respect their head coach, that fucking fat lard of the head coach they have, that freaking Jabba the Hutt fucking wannabe fat lard, because I'm so done with this guy, because clearly this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I think he's overwhelmed with the job he's done with the Dallas Cowboys, thinking that it was going to be fucking riding high with butterflies everywhere and rainbows, but unfortunately, it's been an epic disaster for the Cowboys. And I think Jerry Jones needs to realize that he fucked up hiring this guy.
Yeah, it's not looking good at all, dude.
No, it's not.
It's yeah. He. Do you think he's gone, or no? Do you think he's here to stay?
With Jerry Jones, you don't know.
I mean, yeah. With I'm talking about your coach. Yeah,
you don't know. With Jerry Jones, you don't know if he's going to fire McCarthy or not. What I've been hearing is they still think they're going to make the playoffs. They're still, well, I mean, they have the easiest schedule remaining out of the 4 teams. I mean, the Giants still have to go to Baltimore. They still have to play Cleveland. They still have to play Arizona. They still have to play some really good football teams. I mean, if they could win either one of those games, I think they could definitely make a push. But Washington still has a tough schedule as well. They still got to go play Pittsburgh. They still got to play some other teams. I do think they have to play Baltimore too, although Baltimore hasn't really been playing really good. The Eagles look to me like they're done. But if they can get a win or two, they can still be in the hunt. But I think the Cowboys have the easier schedule. But, I mean, would you be – I wouldn't be satisfied going into the playoffs with a 7-9 or 6-10 record and thinking that it was a success. I mean, yeah, they make the playoffs with this team with no Dak Prescott and all the injuries that they've been getting now losing Zach Martin for 3 weeks now, which really does fucking suck because he's been playing like an all-pro all season. He's arguably one of the best linemen in the NFL. I don't care what anybody says. He is still magnificent. I think the Cowboys really need to start thinking about getting a left tackle. I think it's time to move on from Tyron Smith because Tyron Smith is getting injured all the time, and he's clearly hurting the team. And a guy like Zach Martin, who's had to play right tackle, when he's a guard, it's kind of disappointing. So I think with the Cowboys situation, I don't know if they'll ever fire Mike McCarthy after this season. I think they might think he'll stay next season. I wouldn't be surprised with Jerry Jones because Jerry's surprised a lot of people. I mean, he didn't want to get rid of Romo when Dak was playing this well. He didn't want to get rid of Garrett last season. He was really reconsidering keeping him on. And honestly, I would have kept him on. I mean, this is fucking a disaster. And I don't think Garrett has ever gotten this team this bad either. So, I mean, it's very frustrating, Rob. But if I'm Jerry Jones, I'd fire Mike McCarthy and start again next season.
Yeah. It's all fucking crazy, man. Whoever wins, like you said, whoever wins the East doesn't even deserve to make the playoffs. But anywho, by the way, both of those games yesterday sucked. The other ones sucked too. Both of them were fucking blowouts. Now we didn't even get a nightcap.
That's another team that's fucking garbage.
Who?
Like that's a team that fucked up too. If you think about it, Detroit fucked up by they let go of a guy who had 2 playoff seasons, had a winning record in Detroit. They fire him for Matt Patricia, who, in my opinion, is thinking about who's he gonna if he's gonna go to Popeyes later after the game and munch on some chicken sandwiches because he clearly doesn't know how to coach a football team. Like he's probably thinking about going to the buffet or going to a pizzeria and munch on his face on some slices because he doesn't know what he's doing. Like this is a team with good amount of talent. You have a very solid quarterback in Matt Stafford. You have arguably 2 really good wide receivers in Galladay and Jones, and you have a good tight end in Hutchinson. You have a very good running back in DeAndre Swift. Your offensive line is still kind of shit. Your defense, who you're known as a defensive guru, and you can't even stop. You can't even stop Houston, who has struggled all season offensively. They have Deshaun Watson. But, I mean, Deshaun Watson sometimes probably has to throw it to himself and make any play. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, the Lions are a fucking disaster. And they need to figure themselves out, too. I think they fucked up hiring Patricia and firing Jim Caldwell. I think Jim Caldwell should get an NFL job real soon because I think he's a great head coach.
Yeah, that's what they were saying on First Take this morning. They were talking about that whole situation with Caldwell shouldn't have been fired and how their head coach right now is not doing the job. Before we wrap it up, man, you brought up a good point before we hit record. I want to talk to you about the fucking fight tomorrow. Tyson and
Roy Jones Jr.
That's going to be so cool, dude. I'm so excited. It actually just came up on me. I completely forgot about it for a while. So I'm excited to watch that. I want to get your thoughts. I know everybody's talking Tyson, but Jones Jr. was a solid fucking boxer back in the day too, dude, to say the least. So I think it's going to be cool. Now, they're saying it's a no knockout fight.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. But so what do you think about this whole thing, dude?
I mean, they say it's no knockout, but I'm telling you right now, Mike Tyson's not going to fight anybody and not knocking some motherfucker
Dude.
out. Roy Jones Jr. is another guy who who's a fucking beast. He was considered the pound for pound number one champion heavyweight in the world. I think the only reason why people have discussed why is a very intimidating fight for Roy Jones Jr. is because his last couple of fights haven't really panned out as well as it should. Roy Jones Jr. is obviously well out of his prime, so is Tyson, but the fact of the matter is it's Mike fucking Tyson, and he still looks like the scariest fucking dude you ever met in your life, and he looks like he'll fucking eat my children and freaking everything else. Like, he's just so fucking intimidating. Like, you see that guy, you're just like, here, just take my money, and it's like, what do you want? You want all of it? Here, yeah, take it. Just fucking take it all. Like, it's just terrifying to even like look at him. Like, I feel like when like you see Tyson, you're just like, you should look at him down like this and be like, dude, I am nervous to even see you, man, because you're fucking Mike Tyson. You literally
Master.
You could literally eat my soul. Like, you are this terrifying. Like, I think it's gonna be a good fight. I'm more curious on the that fight and the Jake Paul Nate Robinson fight as well. I think Jake Paul had a really good fight against Gibb.
So ridiculous.
Against Gibb, and I think he proved that he is a legit boxer. I think he could definitely box. Him and Logan. I like Logan. I think Logan is a really promising boxer. I think I would like to see him box again. Obviously, the guys who he wants to box make no fucking sense. Like, you want to fight fucking Floyd Mayweather? Are you kidding me? You see what he did to Conor McGregor, knowing that Conor survived 10 rounds with him, but Floyd absolutely waxed that ass. And I love Conor McGregor, but like Floyd's the number one boxer in the world right now, and Floyd always keeps himself in shape because he knows like that money fight can come out, because obviously he wants to fight, but like against Logan Paul, it's like, no, like Logan Paul needs to chill. Maybe he could fight fucking maybe he could fight Antonio Brown like he was originally going to do, but maybe that, or maybe fucking, who knows, maybe he can fight Gilbert Arenas. I don't fucking know, like some bullshit like that. But like I am excited to see Jake Paul and Nate Robinson. I'm kind of curious on how Nate is going to box, because I'm telling you right now, it's a big size difference, and Jake Paul's not a fucking bad boxer. He had a really good debut against, and was it his last fight was February. I think it was Super Bowl weekend. That was a pretty good fight. I actually saw that whole fight, and it was a really good fight. I'm curious to see what he does. The Pauls are no joke. I think they're decent boxers. But I mean, Mike Tyson, Jr. It's exciting, of course, and we're going. I don't know if you know, Blades and Lewis is not happening now. That fight just got canceled. It was supposed to be tomorrow. Because Blades just got COVID-19. So for me, because that was going to be a fucking awesome fight. But obviously they're getting fights in now. We're also getting some other fights in December. Obviously we got Chimaev versus Edwards coming up on Fight Night as well, which, in my opinion, could be one of the best fight nights since Colby Covington and Tyron Woodley. When we talk about hype on Fight Night, I'm excited about that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. But I think the fucking, I'm really looking forward to McGregor returning too. I wanted to ask you about that too.
Yeah, that's
that's gonna be, it's this January, correct?
January 23rd, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, and that's going to be fun. I think that's going to be. I don't know. Do you think that's his final fight, McGregor? Because he always says that shit. Dude, he always says he's out, and then he comes back in, and he's out, and White finds a way to get him back in, and I don't know. But it's something I'm excited for, regardless, dude. That's going to be really cool.
I'm going to tell you straight up, no, this is definitely not his last fight. I honestly think Conor has gotten to the point where he's so big. He's bigger than the sport. He's bigger than the brand. So it's kind of hard to control somebody like that. Because, the fact of the matter is it's a 3-figure fight. No, I'm sorry. It's like an 8-figure fight, 9-figure fight because, he's Conor fucking McGregor. He's one of the biggest fucking fighters, mixed martial artists out there right now. And it makes sense for him to fight Poirier because I feel like they're setting this up for him to get back the lightweight title. I think obviously whoever wins this fight will have a shot at who they want to do in the lightweight championship. I mean, could be Conor. I also think that Poirier should be taken seriously because he's a really good fighter. He's no joke. I think Diamond Dustin Poirier is a very good fighter. I think also whoever wins with that Ferguson fight would be interesting as well. You still can't also count out Gaethje. Gaethje still needs another fight. I think whoever wins this fight with Conor and Poirier will get the shot against Gaethje for the lightweight championship.
That's a good point.
You can't count out if what's his name win too. If Ferguson wins, I mean that's a possibility too. But I also think you also have to think about a guy that they've re-signed as well. You went in and re-signed. You went in and signed Michael Chandler from Bellator, which is another one that you're gonna have to squeeze him into because he's a lightweight contender as well. I mean, if whoever wins that, you'll probably have to fight Gaethje too. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities right now for the UFC, obviously, but I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make Conor be the number one contender and possibly be the lightweight champion. It's also a possibility that he could fight in welterweight. Could be a contender against Masvidal or whoever, maybe another Nate Diaz fight. I mean,
yeah.
Conor is at the point where he doesn't give a shit anymore because he is the money fight. And obviously you pick Poirier because Poirier is a very good fighter. They had history. They fought already. Unfinished business. And also, it's a big money fight. And obviously fucking Poirier is going to make so much money because he also fought Khabib. And he's going to fight Conor again. It just makes sense to me. And, this fight makes sense. It will be a fun fight to watch, no doubt. But, I mean, this is a toss-up. I don't even know if Conor can even pull out this one easily like he did against Cowboy.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It could go either way. I really don't think there's a heavy favorite for the McGregor fight, dude. But I appreciate you coming on, dude. I think we pretty much discussed a lot. We're running out of time here, so I thank you so much for coming on. You've been on a couple times already, and I've been on your show, and we've gone back and forth. So thank you, Leo. Leo, if you have any plugs you want to add, I know you have a podcast, Say No More. Do you want to tell everybody where you can find that, where you can find your social media and all that stuff? Go ahead.
Well, guys, you already know. Say No More, one of the top podcasts right now in New Jersey. We're getting a lot of views right now. Obviously, big shout out to you for helping me out getting this podcast out there. Always gotta give my thanks to Mr. Carbone over here. And if you guys want to listen about anything, it's not just one topic, it's many topics. You can watch and listen, not watch yet, but listen to Say No More on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, any podcast streaming sites you can basically listen to right here. Obviously, I have an Instagram. It's Leo Rodriguez 1222 93. and Instagram. Usually the links to the listen to the podcast is on my bio, and obviously, we'll go from there. But eventually, I think we'll have an Instagram page very soon. Just eventually it'll just happen. But thank you guys for also listening to the show. I've been getting a lot of views, and also I want to say thank you, Rob, for letting me be on the show and rant about sports again. And obviously, it's been fun. It's always fun come to your show and talk.
Dude, yeah, and I want to tell you, you do such a good job with your podcast. Like, I can already tell you've improved from episode 1 all the way up until 14 or 15 right now. So I can tell you're improving, and you're doing a really good job. So you do a hell of a job. I loved one of the more recent episodes with your brother. I thought that was fucking fantastic. That was pretty funny. I listened to the whole damn thing too, and I thought that was excellent. And listen, man, you gotta keep doing your thing, and I think you should eventually find a way to get it on YouTube. I think that helps too, to talk in front of a camera. I think that's going to be really cool. It took me forever to get in front of a camera because it's a whole different fucking game.
Yeah.
I still like rush through it, but I think your podcast is fucking-tastic, dude. And I think you do a great job. I love editing it. I love publishing it and stuff like that. And I think, I'm glad to be on it. I've been on a couple times, so I'm excited to see where that goes. So thank you for coming on my show, though. I appreciate everything, and it's good that you're back. And I think it's like fucking 5 times you've been on my show now. So thank you for that, dude.
Well, I gotta go to the celebrities app, man. You're definitely the celebrity right now. So, no, man, I appreciate everything, and thank you for the kind words about the podcast and everything. I know, you're the number one supporter, and you also help me out with all that shit because obviously, doing this on your own is very stressful, and I can imagine how it is. I mean, it's very stressful. But it's also fun to do. I mean, obviously, to talk to people is, especially during these times right now with COVID, it is pretty fucking fun to do. And I think a lot of people enjoy it. I mean, I've talked to already a lot of people, actually from different countries, and they just talk about how they just love doing this right now because it's something different. People don't. There's some, like, I was just did this one episode. This girl is from Argentina, and she talks about how like they're just now starting to reopen things. So like they've just been like on their in their homes and their computers, and it's just been very frustrating and very difficult during these times. And doing something like this, so we kind of would help them, I guess, in a way. That's kind of what I want to do.
Yep, I get you, man. Thank you for coming, Leo.
Thank you, Bert.
This podcast is sponsored by Anchor.